Hello YouTube, welcome to my new channel. My channel's name is Dusty Pots. I'll explain that in a few minutes. My name is Steve, and I have been disabled because of a stroke that occurred. Actually, the anniversary for the 6 years that I've had it is this coming just a few days from now. It left me hemiplegic, something like that, which means basically my left side is pretty much what has been affected the most, and I have minimal use of on the left side, my leg and my arm. Mostly my left arm, especially my left leg, I can do a little with it, but not a lot. So anyway, I just start with introducing myself and kind of tell you what my vision is for this channel. Like I say, it's a result of a stroke. Up until that, I'd worked for various companies. My main position really ended up being I was a problem solver for a lot of different companies, depending on what area I was working in. But I was a problem solver. And as a result of my stroke, I actually was consulting for a while. Had my own business for 10 years probably. And then as a result of the stroke, I had to give up my business and really just couldn't work in a normal work environment anymore. So I ended up, here's my little dog. Lay down. This is Gizmo. Come on. Lay down. Okay, there. He has to be in the middle of anything. So anyway, hopefully he'll stay quiet. But so after my stroke, immediately after, I was in the hospital for 5 or 6 days, I think, and then I was sent to rehab hospital, where I was there, I think, 5 weeks, where they helped me get to the point where I could go home and have some certain functions. Right after my stroke, I couldn't walk. I didn't lose any sense of memory or anything like that, but I was unable to walk. I couldn't do much of anything. So anyway, I had to learn all that. They taught me how to take care of myself, how to change my clothes, put on clothes, use the bathroom. I mean, I couldn't do any of that beforehand. So then I came home after 4 or 5 weeks and was able to somewhat function. I was in a 3-bedroom house at that point. I live alone. I don't have anyone here. And I'll talk more about that as time goes on. But I had family help me out for a couple months or so, I think 2 to 3 months. I had family help me out. But it became evident that I really couldn't be on my own for a while. So I ended up moving in with my daughter and her husband and their 4 kids. And it was a house full, to say the least. And I've been used to being on my own. I'd actually spent a year living in an RV. I had a lot of freedom. I had my motorcycle. I was riding 30,000 miles a year on average, so putting a lot of miles on. I was working as a consultant, making okay money, and just kind of enjoying freedom. But after that, I was not able to do a whole lot by myself without having help. So one of the things that kind of got me was driving. Part of my job required me, I had a large diesel pickup truck with a multi-speed transmission, gear shift, and everything else. Well, obviously with my left side not being able to function, I could no longer drive that. Same thing went with my motorcycle. I couldn't drive it anymore. My sense of balance was affected. In fact, that's one of the things that I still haven't completely recovered yet, even after 6 years. But so after a few months of living with my daughter and putting up with all the grandkids shenanigans and stuff. I enjoyed having time with them, but I wanted to go and be on my own. And so I found a place. I ended up having to move out of my daughter's house, moved about 100 miles away, back to where I had lived for quite a few years, almost 30 years, in this one area. So I came back to that area, got a small apartment, a one bedroom, and I moved in. And when I first got moved in, it was a little scary. All I had was an old manual basic wheelchair, nothing fancy about it. In fact, most of it was made of plastic. It's kind of completely falling apart now. So I got rid of my motorcycle. I got rid of my RV. I had to get rid of my truck, and I was able to pick up a small car. Actually got a really nice little car, and I enjoyed driving it. And but the problem was in the new apartment where I lived was not very close to parking. I had to go a ways to park. So between a kind of a rollator walker and things like that, I was able to get to my car, and it was light enough I could lift it in and out of the car and drove it around. I wasn't driving a whole lot, mainly just to the grocery store, doctor's appointments, things like that. So I was able to actually have an assistant come in and help me with some of the daily tasks. A couple days a week she would come in, do a little general cleaning, help me with the laundry, help me with the dishes, things like that. She cooked a little bit for me. I love to cook, so I used to do most of my own cooking. I still do. I do all my own cooking now. But under all the changes with COVID and things like that, basically, and changes with the insurance coverages and things like that, I ended up having to give up having a daily housekeeper. So then I had to learn how to do everything by myself, which is still a struggle, I will admit it. So one of the things I want to do with this channel is talk about the struggles that somebody that's disabled. I know there's a lot of people that are disabled in different ways. In my case, I'm hemiplegic. Other people are paraplegics. There's quadriplegics. There's so many different kinds. And of course, each person's disability is unique to them. And so what they have to do to adapt depends on their certain situations. I know that a lot of people can't actually live on their own. They require help. Some people 24/7. And I know that's tough. Even when I first moved into this apartment, I'll tell you, the second day I was here, I fell down and I had a heck of a time getting back up. And I've now managed, I've figured out and got enough mobility and strength back that I can, if I do lose my balance, I can usually pop back up and get into a chair or whatever. But anyway, after a few months of being in this apartment, I got my insurance, was able to get me a power wheelchair, which I've had for quite a few years now, 5 years almost. But what that did was it kind of changed my desires for driving, because it gave me a lot of mobility options, which I use where I live to get around the area that I live. But to go distances, I still had to rely on using a rollator type walker, and I didn't have much endurance to go very far in my small car. So I sold my small car and was able to buy an SUV type vehicle and put a carrier on the back of it, an electric carrier, that now I can go out and put my electric wheelchair on that carrier and be able to go and go anywhere I want. And I have so much freedom now, it's amazing. So that's one of the videos I want to do. I want to do a video on what it takes for me to go drive, how to get in my car, what adjustments I've made to the car so that I can drive it with just one hand. It's not anything complicated, but it allows me a lot of freedom. Then, of course, I ran into issues of shopping. how, going shopping and things, and the obstacles in shopping centers and stores, things like that. So I've had to develop a lot of these little workarounds, if you want to call it, to adapt to the situation that allows me to function fairly normally. So I would like to do and hopefully encourage people to look for some workarounds. Maybe some of the ones I show, what worked for me may work for someone else, or maybe at least get you thinking about how maybe you could adapt what you're doing to still be able to do things. Just look at it from a different perspective. Like I say, my whole career was based around being a problem solver for different companies. So anyway, that's kind of one of the things. Another one of the things I want to do is I've always been somewhat of a crafty person. And I mean that not like devious, but like I like to do arts and crafts. I'm not a master of any, but I love just being creative. So there's things I like to do. I've done stained glass, I've done woodworking, I've done a lot of things. But the last 20 years, I really got into doing pottery, ceramics. And so at that point, I had my own little studio set up in my garage with pottery wheels. I had two of them. I had kilns. I had two kilns. I had a slab roller. I had work tables, things like that. And so I was doing a lot of pottery. I even opened a store on Etsy where I would make different things and sell them on Etsy. And it was more just for hobby. I wasn't doing it to make a lot of money because I really didn't. And but it wasn't about that. So I named the store Dusty Pots, and it's still on. There's nothing on the store right now, but Etsy, it's still a store that I'm hoping to actually start selling stuff again. What I've done is just recently, where I live, now that the pandemic is over, they have in the senior center up in the front of this location, they have some art rooms. And so the lady that was teaching ceramics before the pandemic left during the pandemic, moved, and so they didn't have anybody to teach it. So somehow one person found another person that I knew something about ceramics. The main thing is they wanted to find somebody that could do the kiln for the class because they were doing painting and glazing of different pre-made bisqueware, it's called. And so they would decorate them and paint them, but then they needed to have them fired in the kiln. So they had a lot of stuff and nobody knew how to do the kiln. Well, I ended up being recruited to run the kiln. So then that led into the next step of they asked me to help them. They didn't really have a teacher for that class per se. And I ended up kind of getting roped into teaching it. Well, for me to teach ceramics, if you know anything about it, doing ceramics with one hand sounds kind of crazy, and it is. But I ended up kind of, again, problem solving and working out a method where I could do certain things, hand building, making different cups, mugs, plates, dishes, things like that with hand building. And that got me back into wanting to try to learn how to throw ceramics again on the potter's wheel. And so just recently, I've actually started doing that. And it's very recent. I still have some techniques to work out. The basics I'm kind of getting a handle on. But then some of the other things that need to take place and when you're throwing ceramics, lifting the walls, things like that, I need to work on my technique. But my plan is eventually not only to teach the people that live here, but also to maybe do some demos of how even disabled people can do certain crafts, including things like ceramics. Some of the techniques I use, maybe somebody that doesn't think they can do ceramics anymore will find a new passion for getting back into doing that. So that's something I'd really like to start doing, is using these as a tutorial for teaching ceramics. I have other hobbies. I have 2 aquariums. This one right here next to me, you can probably see just the corner of it. That's a saltwater aquarium. And then I have one over on that wall over there that is a freshwater aquarium. And so I have that. I have my dog that you've seen jump on my lap a couple times. And I have a little cat that help keep me company. They're my buddies at this point. I don't have family that really lives close by, but I see them occasionally here and there throughout the year, special occasions, things like that. So I am alone as far as my living. I've had to learn how to do my own laundry, make my bed, and believe me, you don't think about it, but that was one of my biggest challenges, figuring how to change the sheets when you have fitted sheets and you're fighting the elastic. But it took a while, but I kind of have a system worked out for that. I do a lot of my own cooking. Like I say, once in a while I buy something frozen and just reheat it. But most of the time I like to do my own cooking with fresh ingredients and things like that. I love Asian type foods. Korean's one of my favorite. So I've worked on ways of developing and being able to cook with only the use of one hand. Things like slicing, cutting, chopping, all that kind of stuff is if you don't have 2 hands, it can be a real obstacle. There are some different things you can do on Amazon or different stores, different type choppers and things like that you can use to help you out a lot. But I've had to also learn how to do a lot of things on my own. So that'll be something, maybe at some point I'll start sharing some cooking demonstrations of how I do things in the kitchen. So that I want to do in the future. Anyway, that's kind of me, what my channel will be about. A couple months from now, there is what's called the Abilities Expo. I'm in the Southern California area, and there's going to be the Abilities Expo coming to Los Angeles in about 2 months. I'm already registered to go there. So I'm going to take you guys along with me when I go. We'll be looking at different things that are available for people that have different types of issues to be able to adjust and adapt to being able to live alone if that's their desire, or just to be more independent. I guess one of the big things is I would really like to encourage people to look beyond their daily struggles, think about what it is they want to do and how they can do it even with limitations. There are ways to do it. I've got a lot of ideas that if somebody wants to do some designs to help make some different equipment, things like that, I've got several things I'd love to discuss. So I'm open to having people contact me about some of the things, simple things like the seat belts on my wheelchair. With only one hand, I can't do them, but I have an idea of how to make it where a person with one hand can actually, just like I do in my car, actually use the seat belt in my wheelchair. I mean, it's just simple things like that the average person or engineer, whatever, doesn't think about, and they don't design into their stuff. So maybe I can help somebody out with that, or somebody can help me with that. So basically the next video I'm going to make, which I'll start start filming the segments of it, is about where I live. Briefly, I live in a seniors community, 55 and over. It's all single level. It's over, I think it's close to 1,100 apartments through the complex. It's on like 100 acres or something like that. And it's nice. We have a swimming pools. There's 2. One's heated all year round, which I'll talk about. We have a little mini market, which it's cheaper to go to 7-Eleven, but at least we have it for emergencies or whatever. And I'm not plugging 7-Eleven, but it's just kind of expensive. I couldn't do all my shopping there, that's for sure. And then, like I say, we have the art rooms where people can, they have a sewing craft room, we have a pool table, a billiard room, we have a card room with card tables for people that want to play whatever, poker, different card games. There's a couple of different meeting rooms. There's a banquet room. We have a barber shop here. We have a hairdresser salon for the ladies. So it's overall, it's a nice thing. There's definitely some pros about it, but there's definitely some cons about it that I wish I would have realized before I moved here. And so the next video I want to do, I'm going to give you a tour of where I live, show you around, show you the things that are really good about it, but I'm also going to show you some things that make it a little difficult. Even for those of us, especially for those of us, which many of the people here are because of age, illness, arthritis, whatever it may be. Mobility can be an issue, things like that. So there's some things I'd like to show that they're positive, things that can help somebody, but there's also things, if you're looking for a place, maybe there's some things you need to consider when you're searching out the place you want to live. Like I say, we have a small golf course here. There's nothing wrong with where I live as far as actually being fairly nice. But again, like I say, there's just certain things that maybe have been little obstacles, but I find ways to overcome them. So maybe I can show some of that, so that as you're looking for a place or someone you know, just something to consider. Now, I don't want this channel just to be for disabled people. I'm open to anybody and everybody watching it, especially when it comes to crafts. Some of the things I'll be doing in crafts, making wind chimes, whatever it is, I'm willing to, hopefully my tutorials will show that even people with limitations can be creative and inspire people, but also to inspire people maybe, or show them that anybody can be artistic if they just learn the proper technique. So there's that. At some point, maybe I'd like to do some travel in my car. Not long trips necessarily, but start traveling. The area I live in, there's so much to see around Southern California, the South Pacific, the Southwest area of our country, things like that. And so I'd like to actually do some travel and bring you guys along and show you some of the things I've seen before and explore some new places that I know of but never have had a chance to get there. And even show that even the fact that I have certain mobility issues, there is so much I can do. So again, this is about encouraging others as well, and I really hope you enjoy this. Like everyone always says, if you get anything out of this, please share this video and click subscribe, give me a thumbs up, all those kind of things. Definitely looking forward to getting comments back. And if there's something maybe that in the comments, if there's something you'd like to see me work with or do or try or figure out, leave me a comment and I'll see what I can do to help people in any way I can to just be able to enjoy life, not get caught up and run down, which is so easy to do. You don't have to be disabled to get just morally and physically and mentally run down. So I'm trying to be encouraging in all this and hopefully have some fun along the way. So I appreciate again you guys watching this. Again, please like, subscribe, and I'll be posting at least weekly. That's my plan as my adventures continue as I move on in my life. So thank you very much, and I look forward to your comments as we are beginning the year 2023, and hopefully we're off to a better year this year than the last several years. I like to think of every year has an opportunity to do better, to be better, to do more. things like that. So come along and join me. Thanks.